bow
by Sunil Patel. Characters: the woman, the bow.
The fallen.
I carved my bow when I was 8. It took me days to find the right wood. She had to be sturdy but pliable, able to withstand great tension. She would have to carry my own.
I loved her from the first moment she held me. There was something in her grip that made me feel secure. She would never let me go. My arrows would fly, but we would stay together.
It took me several tries to string her. 7 times it broke. 7 times I heard him say in my head, "A bow belongs in a girl's hair, not her hand." On the 8th try it held. I felt her smooth in my hand. She was ready now, ready for arrows.
It was the arrows that did the real work. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if she hadn't made them. But then, I wouldn't have been me.
I made my bow when I was 8. My first kill was at 12.
We never saw her coming.
She slept with me every night. She held me close, thinking of how close she had come to hitting the target on the tree. For those first few years, I saw a lot of bark. She wasn't old enough to fight.
I didn't know what it would be like to kill. I was a child. What did I know of life, let alone how to take it? For me, it was the feel of the bow in my hand, the release of the arrows as I let it fly.
I was built to kill, though. That was my purpose.
I came across a wounded deer, a doe, I think it was, but I'm not sure anymore.
It was a doe.
I have nothing. Nothing of consequence. Nothing to lose. No children, no possessions. All I have is my life, and it is slowly, slowly going. It's better this way. Among the leaves and the grass and the trees. None of them I could call my own. No, this one. This leaf is mine. I want to have something to lose.
I thought it was merciful, believing in suffering. I think I saw that in its eyes as it stopped moving.
It was my first taste of death. I hardly knew life, but death would be something I would become intimately familiar.
I let the arrow in the first time. I didn't realize how wasteful that was, but looking back, I'm glad I did it. It was my first kill. It seems crass to use that arrow again. It was animals for a long time as I practiced.
With every kill, another notch.
I was a child. I delighted in counting. It seemed only natural to count the lives I took, so I would remember. I carved a notch into my bow each time. Just a notch, nothing else.
With each notch, she stripped away part of me, but she replaced it with a memory. It was a fair exchange. I could shoulder the burden.
With each notch, she became rougher, but the change in her topography only strengthened my grip. Along with my accuracy, the notches grew. They were not marks of pride. They were not marks of shame either. They were simply our history.
It was a bloody history. There was a boar who stuck with me. He's a few inches down, in between the second rabbit and the third crow. I don't think he had to die, but she did. It didn't bother me too much. There were many animals.
After a time, we were experts. We were one. I could shoot in my sleep, I thought. One night, I almost had to. The man crept in without a sound. Perhaps I left the door ajar. I try not to think about it. I don't know what he was looking for. Money, jewelry, objects of value, things to take. I awoke to find him in my room. He stood leering. Instinctively, I reached for the arrow in the dark and knocked it. I was shaking. I had never been so afraid. But he did not look afraid. He just smiled. And I let loose without thinking, and the arrow found a place in his neck.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, they always say. Possession. You know, we always gotta possess things, but I'm not a possessor. I'm a taker. Yeah, things are transient for me, except my knife. Call her Molly. Even through thick and thin, me and her. Yeah, things I take, I ain't got much attachment to, but you try and take her, I'll cut you with Molly.
I don't think she realized the gravity of what she had done at the time. As he lay on the floor, she carved another notch. Deer, floor, man. They were they're all just notches now. I carried them with me always.
It was clear I had an aptitude for archery. I proved myself to be better than many of the men in my city. When the war started, I was among the first recruits.
My father gave me this sword. It's not the sharpest, but I won't take anything else with me into battle. It just means I have to work harder. We have to work harder.
In combat, I prefer the bow and arrow to a sword and dagger. You don't have to look in their eyes. Sometimes they don't even see you.
She doesn't see their eyes, but I do. What do I see? Usually fear or shock. It doesn't last long, and I don't see what comes afterwards. Just a lot of blood.
My daughter has no need for this broken dagger,
No one uses calculators anymore.
and yet it is the dagger that saved her life.
Won me a trophy.
Were it nothing more than a handle, it would still be a symbol of how much her life matters to me.
I actually care more about the calculator than the trophy.
She must understand that when I'm gone.
You've got to respect what aids you in success.
She will wave it in the air ineffectually.
And remember that her dad was good at math.
I would also see stories. In their last moments as I was taking their lives, I felt what had been taken from them. Or people like them. The slain warrior story came to me as told by another father from a far off time. Kindred spirits and their material attachments. I didn't always understand them. I think the details were lost in the translation, as if the stories were told in a language that hadn't been invented yet. But the language of loss is universal.
What were they to me, these nameless warriors? I'd been ordered to kill them, and they were targets. This was war. If I didn't kill them, they would kill me.
Their stories must end so that hers may continue.
We were glorious out there, she and I. She was like an extension of myself. Sometimes I even felt a sensation of flying through the air towards our enemies.
It was thrilling to work together as one on the battlefield. Whatever qualms I may have had, how we were doing, I always do it.
I never felt more alive than bringing death.
It's been 3 months since I've spoken to her. I know she's not coming back. You know, it's my fault she left. Tossing out most of her stuff today. Except that cotton one. I knew I loved her when I saw that mug. See, she remembered what I said at the cafe about hating pandas, so she bought me a panda mug. That's who she was. Well, it's chips. It's no good, but I'm never getting rid of it.
It may be hard to understand why I loved her. Was it an obligation to love my creator and my constant companion? Of course, it would have been awful to have hated her or to feel an active indifference. In a sense, I loved her because I wanted to love her. But she made it easy.
She wasn't perfect. The curve wasn't quite right. I'd only been a child after all, but I could not blame her for my errors. It reminded me of those simpler times before this never-ending war.
She was beautiful. I have no true sense of human beauty, but I believe she was beautiful. Most beautiful with that expression of determination. As she pulled the arrow back, her eyes fixed on the target. With the string taut, her strength flowed into me, and I knew why we were together.
I slept with her every night, even grown. I wanted to protect her as she protected me. I took such good care of her over the years, such good care.
She did. I don't blame her for what happened. I do. But I don't. It's not about blame.
I heard a noise among the trees. I went to investigate, drawing my dagger. In combat, the bow, but in close quarters, the dagger. I left her on the ground. I'm ashamed to admit I feared she would prove a burden if I were attacked. But it would only be a minute. She would be safe there. How many times had I left her alone before? Nothing had ever happened. Nothing could possibly happen to her.
I understood why she had to leave me. Why she couldn't take me with her. I'm no good in the short range, and I wanted her to be able to defend herself. But I can't take care of myself. I feel so helpless without her. Without her, I'm just wood and string, and I can be picked up by anyone.
Finding no one, I returned to the very spot I had left her. It took me a second to realize that she was missing. At first, all my eyes could register was that something was wrong. Something didn't look right. And then a hole opened up in my chest and sucked all the air out and the heat from my body and paradoxically my heart. How could I still have one? began pumping furiously, and I flushed with warmth. Where was she? What had happened? Was this even the right spot? It was.
He didn't feel right. Like her. He handled me so roughly, like I was a meaningless object. And apparently to him, I was. After examining me and letting out a few grunts of disapproval, he tossed me away. He threw me away like garbage.
For a few minutes, I could not function. I had never contemplated life without my bow, and the idea that such a life may have been about to begin was too much to handle. Could I live without my arm, my eye, my leg? No, I had to find her. She had to be nearby. I knelt to the ground and saw the trail and followed it. It did not lead me very far, but there she was. I touched her and began to cry.
Her touch was incredibly soothing after his. I missed it. It was only a short while, but things felt right again. How could she have left me alone like that?
I felt like myself again. The person I was meant to be. I felt whole. Whole in my chest, now sewn up.
How could she have let him touch me like that? I carried all her memories. All of her terrible memories, but that one is mine alone.
I knew I would always find her. I could count on her like I couldn't count on people. She wouldn't leave me. She couldn't leave me, not like they did.
I don't know if she could tell that I lost my faith in her. She was too blinded by her own love to see it, I think.
I was invigorated the next morning in battle, invincible. Nothing could stop us. Nothing could tear us apart. I let fly arrow after arrow, downing foe after foe.
Even if I lose this hat, I can never lose the experience of buying it. The memory of who I was with, how long it took to get the right size and color, the haggling to get the right price, the song that was playing in the store, where we went for lunch afterward. I never wore the damn thing again, but I don't regret buying it. The day will stay within me. The hat is a reminder, and without this reminder, the memory can fade.
I wish there was a way to share their stories with her so she understood what we were taking away. I don't even know what a hat was, but I imagined what one would be like as she carved the notch for him. The notches. Is that why you've thrown me away? Did the notches make me look ugly?
Sometimes I talked to her, hoping she could hear me. She'd come from a tree, and a tree was alive, so perhaps she was alive in a way. I addressed her as Bo, which suited her. It was simple. That was a good kill, Bo.
Is it a good kill? Can a kill be good?
The arrow flew straight and true, and he felt no pain at all. We did well. Thank you for being with me.
You made me from a tree that was alive, and now I'm an instrument of death. The only life left in me are the lost memories of lost objects. When you first made me, did you fill me with your hands? You know how I felt in yours, but you could not have felt what I felt. The pure innocence of the life begun. I've lost it now. I've given all of myself to you, and I've lost it, and you can't mourn it.
We will fight again tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, until this war is over. Perhaps then we can rest. I think you would like that. We can shoot at targets. I will hit the center so many times. You believe in me. I know it.
Fought again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. I thought I was going to go mad.
My father collected dolls. Not action figures or superhero figurines. Dolls. Dead eyes. Porcelain skin, frilly hair. Something about them that appealed to him. He said that each one was like a life never lived. We had a whole room devoted to him. And every time I visited, there'd be at least 5 new ones. He remembered all their names. Even when he stopped remembering my name, he remembered all their names, and I didn't understand it. I hated it. It wasn't fair.
I felt like a god, but only with her. Without her, I was a mere mortal. My grip on her carried the history of years.
In his last days, though, He had a moment of clarity. He said my name. He hadn't said my name in 5 years, and he said my name. You are my favorite thing, Simon, he said. My very favorite thing. I didn't care that he called me a thing. He loved things. All that mattered was that of all the things, I was his favorite.
It was different now. She couldn't tell what it was. I had been with another. But she hadn't. She'd only ever been with me. But she was my favorite, and I was hers. It would be us together for the rest of our days. It had to be.
So focused on my target that day, I didn't see what struck me from behind. It must have been a rock. I fell. My grip loosened and I dropped my bow.
I never felt that sensation. She let me go. I was terrified as I fell, but I was more terrified for her. She had fallen, just like all of them.
My face was on the ground. I reached for her, enraged and ready to retaliate.
She was calling for me. I could hear her groan. She was alive.
I felt another strike and the darkness took me. When I woke, she was gone.
She wasn't her. She didn't handle me like he had either. I was no object to her. I was what I'd always been. A weapon. Her weapon now.
I never cried for the lives I had taken. I wish I had sometimes. It would have felt right. But I cried now. The loss plucked my heartstrings like a harp. Could I string a new bow with them? Or would a new bow simply play my heart like a violin?
She took me into battle the very next day. She was not nearly as good an archer. And in a way that eased the pain. Hear her stories to her.
I could buy a new hat, but it would never be that one. It wouldn't have the same history. People always say that some things are replaceable and some things are irreplaceable, but that's a lie. Nothing is replaceable. You can't replace anything. When it's gone forever, and the thing that you get that looks just like it is a simulacrum.
She didn't carve a notch for him. She didn't know what the notches meant. She didn't know me at all.
I stand here alone, as I wonder how to live the life I always feared.
She doesn't hold me at night.
I should have kept more of myself. Part of me is gone.
I
A
dream
whole
of,
part of me.
I dream of her. Her gait, her grip, her grace.
I miss her.
I
I miss her so much.